Hi there. Have you ever wished that you could make the perfect pie crust? Or have you ever wanted to bake a home-baked pie from scratch? That's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you my family's famous perfect pie crust recipe from scratch. And it's very easy and very simple to make. And basically it has 3 ingredients. It has butter, real butter, and quality butter is better. It has water, just plain old tap water, and then of course it has flour. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure our flour, and we need 2 cups of flour. So 2 cups of flour, I'm going to measure that first. I'm going to measure off my flour. Here's 1 cup. I don't sift it. I don't do anything like that. I just measure 1 cup. And here's 2 cups of flour. This is a double crust recipe, by the way. So 2 bottoms, or a bottom and a top, depending on what kind of pie you're going to make. Now, I've got my 2 cups of flour in my bowl. And now out of this 2 cups that I already measured, I'm going to take this. Oh, sorry, that's not the right one. Take this one, 1/3 of a cup, and I'm going to take that 1/3 of a cup of flour out of the 2 cups. 1/3. I'm going to set that aside in this little ceramic bowl. It's just my cereal bowl. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. So now I've got the 2 cups minus 1/3 in here. And I'm going to put in my butter. So I have 3/4 of a cup of butter. That is 1.5 sticks. And like I said, use real butter, nothing else. And if you like a little bit of a high quality butter, this one is decent butter, Danish creamers, but you can use Kerrygold or whatever fancy butter you like. Believe me, it makes a difference. It tastes so much better with a good quality butter. So now we have 1.5 sticks, or 3/4 of a cup of butter. This is a pastry cutter. You do need a pastry cutter for this. In my opinion, there's really no substitute for this. This butter is softened. It's been sitting on the counter, just room temperature. This one actually is probably a little firmer than room temperature. That's okay, as long as it's starting to kind of cut up. And basically a pastry cutter, see what it does? It cuts the butter into the flour. And I know that looks like it's not working, but it is working, because you just keep working it. You just keep working it, press it down, work it. You're cutting and kind of pushing at the same time. Cutting and pushing. Okay, now see how it's kind of gotten up on the side, so I'm going to use my butter knife, kind of scrape it off, scrape it down into the bowl, and then I'm just going to go back to cutting again until I've worked that in pretty good. Some people say until it looks like little bits of rice, but honestly, you'll see it starts to lump together. The flour and everything kind of starts to lump together because I use a lot of butter. And this makes your pie crust really flaky and very buttery and delicious. Okay, so see how it's starting to really chunk up now? You can see it's kind of in pieces. And see, look at what it looks like on the pastry cutter. When I cut it, it's starting to just kind of meld into that flour. And if you look in the bowl, you don't really see any dry flour anymore. See, the dry flour's worked all into the pie crust. No dry flour bits left. Okay. scrape all that into the bowl because that's our pie crust. Don't put any salt. Don't need to because the butter I use is salted. And when you make your pie filling, you're going to put a little salt, so you don't need salt. Okay, pastry cutter set aside, done with that. Now, here's my little reserve 1/3 of a cup flour that I took out of that original amount. And I'm going to add to that 1/4 of a cup of just plain water, tap water. Okay, and I'm going to mix that up until it makes a paste. See how it's turning into a paste? Kind of pasty, gooey. And that's what it needs to look like. It needs to look kind of like a gooey, sticky, pasty amount. See that? Okay, if you mix it and it's too thick, just add a little tiny bit more water until it looks like this. You want it to be this consistency. Okay, so you can always add a teeny bit more water if you need to, because this is going to help it mix into this flour and butter mix. So now I'm going to scrape all of that pasty flour, excuse me, into the pie crust. So I'm done with this, set that aside. And then I start to mix this together. And see, I'm just using my little tiny, you can use anything, a wooden spoon. I'm just using this because this is what I already had my pasty sticky on there. So why not just use this? See how it's starting to pull together? It's starting to pull together. And now it's really kind of stuck together. So this last part, I just pull it together by hand. And again, I scrape everything off and back into the bowl because that's all crust that we're going to use. And because my nails are so long, I use gloves when I handle food because I just feel it's more sanitary. I always wash my hands first, but I just feel like if I'm going to touch it, I should put my gloves on. So I do. I just use food handling gloves. Like if I'm going to make meatballs or meatloaf or pie or something where I'm going to really use my hands to mix it. Okay. So now I'm going to pick that up and you can see how it's just starting to, see how it's come together? And it's very soft. Very soft. And really when it comes to pastries, most of the time, you don't want to stir it too much. You don't want to work with it too much. I've tried making this in the food processor. I've tried doing it other ways. I've been making this pie crust for 45 years successfully. This is my father's recipe. I actually did change it a little. He used 2/3 of a cup butter and I do 3/4. I just find it's more foolproof if I add more butter. But you see how fast and easy this is. You don't need to really cut corners on anything. It's quick. So there's my pastry crust. Now, this makes two bottoms, 9-inch, or one top and bottom 9-inch pie. Then the next thing I'm going to do is cut it in half. I totally eyeball it. I do not worry, because that's going to be one bottom, and this is going to be the other bottom. Okay, here's my pie pan. I'm very particular about that. Again, after 45 years, I've tried a lot of pie pans. I've tried fancy ones, but you know what? The one that works the best is good old-fashioned Pyrex 9-inch. I spilled my water. I think it says on the back that it's a 9-inch, but that's the one that I like. Okay, and I have quite a few of them because I really literally will only use those. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dust my board that I'm going to roll out my pie crust on. And it's just regular flour, same flour I used to mix it. And you really don't want to use a lot. So I'm just barely dusting it. And I take my pie crust and I see how I've kind of shaped it into a disc. It's not real thin, but it's not real thick. It's kind of round. First thing I do is set it down, then I turn it over and set it down again. Now, the way that I was taught to roll it out is from the center out. So it does take practice, and it does take the right consistency for your pie crust. So just like anything else, when you're cooking or baking or making crafts or doing anything, you know, you just got to do it a few times. You got to practice it. If it doesn't come out great, that's okay. You can make an adjustment. Now, how do I know if that's big enough? I just gently hold this over the top. I'm not setting it down, but I can see that it's probably pretty good this way, but I need it a little wider this way. So I'm going to roll it out, and I kind of look at it to see. Like right now I can tell the edges here are a little thicker than the center. So I'm going to roll out those edges a little bit. Oops, see, I folded it, but look at that. No biggie. I don't stress about small imperfections. Most of the time you can put it in and it'll be fine. You can kind of finagle it in. Okay. So I think this is right about right. You don't want it to be too much bigger because then, you know, you waste the crust. So then the trick to get it in to the pan is this. You just gently fold it in half. You set your pie pan down very close to it. You lift it in and you gently set it down and then unfold it. That is how you can very carefully get it into the pan without tearing it, hopefully. So you can see I actually should have rolled it out a little bit more because look, see, I'm not making it all the way to this side. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm actually going to just barely kind of stretch it a little because I don't want to have to take it out and do it over, especially when I'm making a video. But that should work. That should work. Okay, so that's going to be the bottom of my pecan pie, which is my favorite and my special, I would say my specialty. Now, how do we make the little fluted edge? Very simple. You use your fingers. So you just pinch very carefully and gently. Pinch, you can make it very pointy if you want, or you can just make it gently curved. See, this side's going to be a little weird because I didn't get it quite enough crust on that side. But you know, you can just kind of finagle it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes I do, you know, really want to make sure that it's very extremely pretty. You know, and I'll take some extra time to make sure it's really excellent, but you know, most of the time it's good, it's fine. How it tastes is more important than how it looks. Okay, so you can kind of see that fluted edge, and I didn't waste any. I didn't have any leftover pieces to have to pull off, which is kind of my goal, to like not waste it, because what happens is if If there's extra, you have to cut it off. But like I said, if you're really trying to make it fancy for a special occasion, I'd roll it out a little bigger, make the edges a little perfect, and then cut the excess off. So there we go. That is our perfect pie crust. No need to cook it in advance. I am going to turn this into a pecan pie. I'm going to do that video next and show you how to make the pecan pie filling. But you do not have to cook this crust before you put the filling in. You just fill the crust, put the whole thing in the oven, and that's that. The other one, I'll probably make a pumpkin and show you all how to do that as well. All right, thanks for watching.